Hello, this is Anthony Fasano, Executive Director for the New York State Society of Professional Engineers. I'm here once again with our Legislative Counsel, Mark Chris, and this is the first of a two-part video series with a summary of this last year and some of the key things we've worked on. And then also in the second video, we'll talk about some of the bills that we're actively opposing right now. So the first thing we want to talk about in this video, which we're actually going to talk about four main items. The first item is the design build and the budget bill. Mark?
Right, we've reported on this before, but
Yes.
just I want to give a brief summary in that when the governor proposed the 2017-2018 budget, he included a expansive provision for design build to be used in both horizontal, vertical construction and across a whole bunch of new entities.
Right.
And we were very concerned that the entities that were going to be vested with authority to do this didn't have the expertise to be able to do it properly, and really raised a major public safety concern.
Absolutely.
Fortunately, through a lot of hard work with a lot of different other groups, including AIA, the ultimate end was that the bill that passed basically leaves the paradigm the way it was since for the last 8 years or so.
Yep.
And that means that 5 particular state agencies with enough in-house expertise can use design build for horizontal construction, and they did do as a kind of provision to test this design build more broadly. They allowed it for 8 specific projects, and we're under the understanding that there will be enough reliance on agencies in the state that have the expertise to be able to move forward with those eight specifically named projects over the next 2 years.
Absolutely. And just so you know, this is just a summary. Below this video, we'll link to the video that Mark and I did in detail on the design build and the budget bill if you want to hear more about that. All right, the second item that we want to talk about is kind of these 3 big issues that we've been talking about, trying to decide on where to put our energy, where to put the most energy, what to focus on. We have the indemnification reform, we have the Emergency Responders Act, and we have the statute of repose. Mark, why don't you talk about those and kind of what direction we're headed?
We're looking at the indemnification bill in that what the bill would do is put in place a statutory contractual provision that would be mandated for the use in both state agency and municipal contracts with design firms. And the idea is that we've seen a proliferation of overreach in the sense that the agencies are asking for more and more in the way of indemnification terms, contract terms, which make the design firm responsible for conduct that they have no control over, and that they have little in the way of responsibility, no responsibility as a matter of law, other than they're being arm twisted to agree to these contractual terms, and I've described it as a race to the bottom.
Absolutely, and again, there's a video below this video that details the indemnification, which we've spoken about in the past. But the bottom line is too many members are coming up to us and saying that we just can't work for municipalities anymore because they're asking us to assume too much liability. Mm-hmm. And so as the society, we need to do something about that because it's really not fair. And people are losing work, and you're potentially getting other people to take these projects that might not produce the highest quality engineering work. So it's an issue that we want to put focus on, and we plan to continue to put more focus on it. And Mark's been doing a lot of talking to people, starting to get us in. Well, we've been working on it for a long time, but really getting these key connections now and driving it forward.
We're also promoting passage of legislation that's been introduced in both houses as part of a broad coalition. We're working to address the fact that firms are called upon to provide services in an emergency setting following a natural disaster or a man-made disaster like 9/11, and to make certain that the consequence of doing that, of providing services in that framework, that there isn't the ability to get adequate insurance or even to assess the circumstances, and yet we're being called upon to deliver those services. we want the provision in the contract where, in an instance where you're hired, or in an instance where you're just volunteering, to be able to have the government, which is responsible for restoring essentially normalcy,
Yeah.
to be the one that's carrying out, in the absence of gross negligence. In other words, if you did something wrong, but it was really due to the circumstances that you were delivering the services, that you had unanticipated difficulties, you're not going to be called upon, but her person that would be injured would have a remedy in that the government would be the source of recovery.
Right. All right, and the third item that we want to talk about, Mark, is QBS, the expansion of QBS.
Yes, we've been trying to get as a base model for procurement. Qualifications-based selection has been supported by the society. It's supported on the federal level with the Brooks Law,
Yes.
and we have it in the state under the state finance law for state agencies. We've been working for, I hate to say how long, but we've been working for a long, long time to try to get that expanded to both public benefit corporations and public authorities and municipalities. And it's just one more thing on our wish list, but it's certainly, we haven't forgotten it.
Yeah, absolutely. And we are going to do a second video where we're going to talk about some of the bills that we're actively opposing. However, one thing I just want to say as we close out this video is when you get involved in these legislative type efforts, they're a tremendous effort. To use an analogy, you could imagine if there were, a boulder that was 3 tons for each one of these bills, and imagine like trying to push all these things at the same time. It's you can't do it, and just to push one of them, we need a lot of help. Mm-hmm. So the point is that we've got to really decide which pieces of legislation that we want to go after, and going after them doesn't mean that just Mark works on it. It means that we talk to other organizations that help us. We get our members actively involved, which is where you come into play, and there's a lot of decisions to be made. So I just want everyone to understand that, because I think a lot of times members are saying, well, let's do this, let's do that, let's do this. And it's not like pushing a button. That's the bottom line. It's a massive effort that takes a lot of energy, and that's why we're trying to keep you updated with these videos so that you understand what's involved, but also understand that the positive impact that can come out of it, of course,
Absolutely.
if we can make it happen. So thank you for giving us your feedback and your input. You can always leave that below the videos. And we're going to come back with video number 2 to talk about these bills that we're actively opposing.
Thank you.